Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we discuss something very rare made from 2014 until 2018, 42 millimeters in blackened titanium. This is the F.P Journe Linesport Centigraphe Sport. Now, only 72 examples were made on bracelet and strap, with the strap-clad model you see here being the less common of the two. So this is an extraordinarily rare watch. A lot of folks don't realize that many variants of the titanium Linesport models are just as rare, if not more so, compared to the prior aluminum. They are both highly collectible. Neither one is still being made as you see it here. The watch, 42 millimeters in diameter, only 11.3 millimeters thick, and then from lug tip to lug tip, the distance across the wrist, 48.8 millimeters. The watch is relatively compact and then very, very light. All of rubber, titanium, and sapphire. It's almost toy-like. You can see on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters circumference, it sits well. Don't worry so much about that little outcropping horn at each side. Look at the lugs inboard of that point. You could see that across the wrist, it's a very narrow watch, which is why I would advocate this watch for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. You can see how far inboard of the edges of my wrist that the lugs really are, even from over the top, an angle that exaggerates the width of the watch. And with a domed bezel and a low profile, yeah, you can wear this with a suit, no problem, and a tight sleeve. My wrist, again, 16 centimeters circumference, and this down the barrel angle is the definitive one. The strap, designed to integrate with the case, it helps to emphasize the fact that whether you get these on a bracelet or a strap, you have a very different case shape than the traditional 2007 to 2018 dress version of the Centigraphe. So we have more of a tonneau case profile that flows into the sweep of the strap. The strap features the Linesport logo, and then on the underside you can see the F.P Journe monogram. This helps to evacuate the bottom of the strap and make it more flexible. This is a strap that will be cut to length, so there's quite a bit of cuttable length there with these pre-scored marks. We'll cut this so it fits your wrist no problem. The clasp, made of titanium, you can see spring-loaded pin snaps, so it's a snappy close, and you can see externally we have rubber sheathing to help protect this component from disfigurement. You can see the inside of the clasp from every angle. Rolling back to the case. The case is a media blast, so it's a very matte, anti-reflective, anti-glare finish. The aluminum watches are silver, and the titanium watches, which were made after the beginning of 2014, they were a sort of anthracite, so it's somewhere between black and gray, this anthracite color. Rubber bumpers present in profile over at the 9 o'clock side, and also sheathing the patented rocker system, which actuates the chronograph, and then the knurled double dimple Journe-style crown. The bezel gasket, a little bit like a Royal Oak offshore, has been expressed externally to become a styling feature of the watch. And then we have another gasket expressed adjacent to the crystal, again, to emphasize that this is a sports watch. Now, people ask me, Tim, can this watch go in the water and swim? It's a 30-meter rated watch, and it's a push-down crown, so I would not recommend you swim with this. That said, a man once sent me a video of him cannonballing into his pool several times wearing this watch, and the watch didn't flood, so I guess you take your chances, but I recommend, given how collectible this is, you not push it to its design limits. Now, the dial is interesting because it's loomed, and a standard Centigraphe is not that. Centigraphe Souverain does not have loom. Linesport Centigraphe Sport, game on. And you can see it's visibly and identifiably a Journe watch, even in the dark. You've got his numerals and you've got his hand design, and that's the same whether you're dealing with a sports watch or you're dealing with a dress watch. Now, what's also fascinating is that these numerals are actually solid blocks. This may look like a printed dial at first glance. Those are solid three-dimensional blocks of loom with length, width, and height. The dial base is media blast, and as you can see, then there is this matte finished titanium bezel around the center, and it's got a very subtle sort of media blasted granular finish. The hands alone are polished along with the assembly screws, a dial side feature that is a signature of Journe. I think that the Centigraphe complication is better in the Linesport form, because while you don't get the tachymetric scales of the Centigraphe Souverain, no one could read those anyway. Are you quick enough to time something going 36,000 kilometers per hour? Most people are not. So on the Linesport, you dispense with the tachymeters and you get these smoked sapphires that allow you to see the underlying mechanism. So you see that secondary escapement that produces the namesake of the watch, the 1/100th of a second foudroyant. So that is the Centigraphe, 1/100th of a second. And although the watch has a beat rate of 3 hertz or 6 beats per second, it can register 1/100th of a second. And that is why it is called the Centigraphe. So this makes a circuit every second, this makes a circuit every 20 seconds, and this makes a circuit every 10 minutes. Manual wind watch, chrono on, 24-hour power reserve. But given that the largest register is 10 minutes, you don't need to leave it on for 24 hours. Chronograph off, power reserve 80 hours. And I do like being able to see into the heart of the movement. It is just more fascinating than a solid dial. So turn it all over. We actually have the same caliber that you would find in the aluminum version of the watch. This is caliber 1506, 15 being the size in French lean, about 34 millimeters in diameter, a large, properly sized movement to fit the case. You can see there's a little bit of adhesive from a sticker on the back here. And then so being a large movement, it fills the case hand in glove, which is how it should be with a large modern watch. If you're Journe and you're making both case and movement, the one should fit the other like a glove. Now, it is also a 06, so 15 is the size in French lean. 06 is the year Journe started work on the movement for the original Centigraphe Souverain. That's how you read a Journe caliber number. And it is still made of aluminum. The aluminum exterior case went away in 2014, but the aluminum movement continued, and thus that is part of the key of this watch being as light as it is. We have circular Côte de Genève, we have solarization on this crown wheel assembly, we have a machined but handsome bevel, polished screw heads, and then engine turning on the base plate as well as on the lower bridges for the escapement, the primary escapement. It is free sprung, it beats at 3 hertz. The watch features a free sprung architecture because it's more durable and also allows for more precise setting. You'll note that the barrel is at the center of the movement, and this 50 joule movement has 2 patents. One is for this rocker system, so it looks like a mono pusher, but it can do what a mono pusher can't, which is restart after you stop it. A mono pusher is start, stop, reset in that order exclusively, whereas here you've got a bit more flexibility. It's also easier to operate, and I love the resetting action, with just one finger. So you see the reset always returns all the hands to the index. Now the barrel, that's part of the second patented innovation on the Centigraphe. And the barrel arbor, basically its axle, is what runs the chronograph. And on most chronographs that run both chronograph and escapement off the edge of the barrel, you wind up losing about 30 to 40 degrees of balance amplitude, and the watch will slow down with the chrono running. Because there are 2 distinct drivetrains here, you do lose power reserve, but you don't lose amplitude. The balance doesn't lose any, the watch doesn't slow, and that's the second patented element here. It has a very distinguished movement on the inside. The Centigraphe Souverain won the GPHG Aiguille d'Or, which is basically Best Picture at the Oscars of watchmaking, and you get that mechanical legacy here. But whereas there are many precious metal Centigraphe Souverain, there are only 72 of these Centigraphe Linesport in titanium scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. So reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing and availability details.